The last episode of Blake's 7 aired on December 21, 1981, 2 days before Christmas. BBC viewers tuned in expecting a finale. What they got was a massacre. Within the final 2 minutes, every single member of the crew is gunned down. Not one survivor. Not one escape pod. The hero shoots his oldest friend in cold blood, then raises his weapon toward a firing squad of Federation troopers, and smiles. The screen cuts to black. The credits roll in silence. No epilogue. No coda. No promise of return. For 44 years, that was the ending. But the story of why the BBC killed its greatest sci-fi show, and what's about to happen next, is darker than anything Terry Nation ever wrote. Terry Nation was already a legend when he pitched Blake's 7 to the BBC. The man who invented the Daleks, the single most iconic monster in British television, walked into the commissioner's office with 3 words written on a notepad: "The Dirty Dozen." In space. The BBC gave him a budget meant for a police procedural. 1 big set, a handful of location shoots, and a time slot originally allocated to a show called Softly, a British crime drama about rural policemen. He gave them a revolution. The premise was deceptively simple. Rog Blake, a political dissident, is framed by the totalitarian Terran Federation and sentenced to a penal colony on a distant world. He escapes with a crew of criminals, commandeers an alien starship called the Liberator, and declares war on the Federation itself. But this was not Star Trek. The Federation was not a benevolent utopia. It was a fascist state that drugged its citizens into compliance. The Liberator's crew were not noble explorers. They were thieves, smugglers, and cowards. And the show's true protagonist was not the idealistic Blake. It was Kerr Avon, cold, calculating, a computer genius who made no secret of the fact that he was only there because the alternative was death. Avon trusted no one, loved no one, and the audience never quite knew, across 4 full series, whether he was the hero or the villain. Blake actor Gareth Thomas left after Series 2. This was not a creative choice. It was exhaustion. The shooting schedule was brutal, the budget was non-existent, and Thomas believed Blake's story had reached its natural conclusion. His departure fundamentally altered the show. Leadership of the Liberator passed to Avon. And the central question shifted from, will they overthrow the Federation, to, will Avon betray them all? The British public was riveted. At its peak, Blake's 7 was reportedly beating Coronation Street in the ratings, unheard of for a science fiction program in the 1970s. Then the BBC killed it. There is a persistent myth that Blake's 7 was cancelled because nobody was watching. The myth is false. The show's ratings were strong. Its audience was loyal. Series 4 was commissioned specifically because BBC executive Bill Cotton, the controller of BBC One, had watched the Series 3 finale and personally ordered more. 3 forces combined to destroy the show. None of them had anything to do with quality. The first was internal politics. Cotton was promoted out of the role before Series 4 aired. His replacement, Alan Hart, had no personal investment in the program. When the renewal decision came up, there was no champion in the room to fight for it. The second was the Thatcher government. By 1981, Margaret Thatcher's administration was applying sustained pressure on the BBC over alleged political bias. Blake's 7, a show about armed insurgents fighting a corrupt fascist federation, suddenly looked like a liability. A publicly funded broadcaster airing a program that asked, "Is violent revolution justified?" during an era of heightened domestic tension was not a comfortable position. The third was the creator himself. Terry Nation was fired from his own show. Nation and the BBC clashed repeatedly over creative control. He wanted more money for effects and location work. The BBC wanted more episodes for less. By Series 4, Nation was gone, removed from his own creation. The final season was overseen by producer Vere Lorimer, who was left to write the ending alone. Lorimer had one instruction from the BBC: write a definitive conclusion. No loose threads. No possibility of return. He interpreted this instruction literally. Gareth Thomas agreed to return for the Series 4 finale on one condition. Blake had to die. Permanently. Irreversibly. Thomas wore extra theatrical blood packs under his costume. He wanted there to be no ambiguity, no chance of resurrection. When Avon shoots Blake on that barren planet, the man who invented the Daleks was watching his own creation commit the unforgivable sin. But here is the detail that has haunted the fanbase for 44 years. Years after broadcast, Vere Lorimer admitted in an interview that the ending was deliberate misdirection. His exact words, "Blake had to die. But the others, no blood, they fell in a dreamlike way. You never saw Avon killed." Lorimer called it the biggest cliffhanger that's ever been. The BBC had asked for a definitive ending. Lorimer delivered a massacre, but built it so ambiguously that a revival was always theoretically possible. Blood on Blake. None on the others. Avon, surrounded by troopers, raising his weapon and smiling, and the screen cutting before a single shot is fired. If you watch the final 2 minutes frame by frame, you notice something strange. Vila falls. Sulan falls. Tarrant falls. Dana falls. But the camera never lingers on their bodies. The edit is fast. Almost dreamlike. The show died on December 21, 1981. But the crew, perhaps, did not. For the next 44 years, the fanbase refused to accept it. Paul Darrow, the actor who played Avon, spent decades trying to get a revival off the ground. He approached production companies. He pitched networks. He gave interviews well into his 70s insisting that Avon had survived. The campaign outlasted his lifetime. Darrow died in 2019, still carrying the story he never got to finish. Gareth Thomas died in 2016. Jacqueline Pearce, the iconic Servalan, died in 2018. Michael Keating, who played Vila, died just weeks ago, in April of 2026, at the age of 79. The original crew was running out of time. And then, in January 2026, 45 years after the massacre, it happened. A new production company called Multitude Productions acquired the rights from Terry Nation's estate. The man attached to direct is Peter Hoar, the Emmy-nominated director behind The Last of Us episode, Long, Long Time, widely considered one of the greatest hours of television ever produced. Hoar compared Blake's 7 to Andor, not because of budget, but because of integrity, wit, and sophistication. The reboot is currently being shopped to broadcasters now, in mid-2026. The timing is almost poetic. The original cast is largely gone. The BBC that killed the show no longer exists in the same form. And the story of a small crew of outcasts fighting a fascist federation, against impossible odds, on a non-existent budget, has never been more relevant. Vere Lorimer built the cliffhanger. The fans kept it alive. Peter Hoar may finally get to resolve it. Blake's 7 was the BBC's greatest sci-fi show. The corporation killed it. And 45 years later, the show may get the last word.